call to order. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
We already did it earlier.
Okay, thank you. We have one presentation tonight. Mr. Brightwell.
Yep, I would like to introduce the Reverend Dale R. Milford. He's from Hope United Methodist Church. I happened to, last week we were at the ribbon cutting for the Hope Festival, and I met with the Reverend and other church members, and he's in charge of outreach, and I invited him to come over and speak to us, and I think the minister, Reverend Small, indicated as of last Friday or Thursday, you were on the job for 19 days, so now you've been there 21 days.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, Reverend Milford, please, you have the floor, sir.
Mr. Chairman, before Dale speaks, I'd like to introduce Barbara Talley. She's in the audience, former councilwoman. Barbara, stand up, Barbara.
And I'll also,
Okay, Dale.
I would also add that Mrs. Talley is with the Reverend today also.
Yes, and I feel in very good company to have Mrs. Talley here from Hope. She's been a member there for many years, and a well-known figure in this room, I imagine. Mm-hmm. A very well-known figure. Amen. Yes. My name is Reverend Dale Milford. I've just been appointed by the Bishop of the Michigan area of the United Methodist Church as the Associate Pastor at Hope United Methodist Church in Southfield. I've been named as Associate Pastor of Growth and Community Outreach, and that's why I was so glad to accept your friendly invitation that I was so glad to receive on our opening day, and I give a shout out to His Honor Mayor Siver for coming to our ribbon cutting and joining in on the festivities that helped to make that community festival a success once again. We're hoping next year to be even bigger and better. And again, shout outs to Councilmans Fraser, Fracassi, and Brightwell, who all came out and joined in the ribbon cutting ceremony. Without the support and collaboration of the city of Southfield, it wouldn't have been nearly as much of a success as we enjoyed once again this year. Thank you for your support. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
As Associate Pastor of Community Outreach, my primary focus, aside from standing up in the chancel on a Sunday morning in a world-class worship center, is to reach out into the community and provide resources that are at our avail. The Southfield Community Festival is just one example of collaboration that we can and should be doing with the city. According to the vision cast by, as you mentioned, our lead pastor, the Reverend Dr. Kevin Smalls, we're going to be embarking on a major campaign to reach out to the community and share the wealth of resources that exist on our campus. We have over 100,000 square feet of resources there. We have meeting rooms, university-grade classrooms, a dozen of those. We can seat 550 people in one banquet facility and 250 in another. There's a whole variety of resources that are there that could and should be made available to the entire community, not just for a cloistered few who are attending Sunday morning. But the other, we're starting a club that I'm referring to as the 163 Club. We have worship services running from 7:30 to 12:30 on two different occasions on a Sunday morning, but that's just 5 hours out of 168 hours in a week. So what are we doing with the other 163? Making that available and affordably available to the community at large here in Southfield. We're also looking to learn from you, to meet with you and find out needs in the community service groups who are in need of meeting spaces, who are in need of resources that we can and should provide as a dynamic contributor to the quality of life in the community. That is part of our mission as Christians, to reach out to the community and to serve. And so I'm hoping to find out from you and learn from you how we can put those resources best to your avail. And in light of that, I'd like to invite all of the council members to come and do a walking tour of these fabulous facilities that exist just on the other side of Northwestern. Have you come and do a 20-minute tour. We can do a walking tour through, and you will be amazed at what is available there that could be and should be added to the resources that you can offer to the community as well. And we would love to work hand in hand with you to offer those resources. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, if I can, perhaps we will take Reverend up on this. We will try to coordinate something with council and other members to take you up on your offer of the tour.
Super. As soon as you have time available.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, and welcome to Southfield.
Thanks.
Do we have no appointments?
Madam Chair? Go ahead. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the regular meeting minutes of June 24th, 2019.
Support?
It's been moved and supported for the approval of the regular minutes of June 24th. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes of July 8th, 2019.
Support?
It's been moved and supported that the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes be accepted July 8th, 2019. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the special meeting minutes of July 11th, 2019.
Support?
It's been motioned and supported that for the acceptance of the special meeting minutes of July 11th, 2019 be accepted. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we go to the consent agenda.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to move consent agenda items A through C.
Support?
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Mandelbaum, approved by, second by Councilwoman Morris for the acceptance of consent agenda items A, B, and C. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chairman,
Mr. Frazier?
Yeah.
Mr. Frakazi.
I would like on consent agenda C, at the approval of the Brownsfield redevelopment for McKinley, I'd like to be brought up to date as what the residents in that area are seeing, when the plan is available. Thank you.
Thank you. To the city administrator, will you make those plans available
Yes.
for us? Okay. It's been so noted, Mr. Frazier.
How about Fracassi?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Mr. Frakazi.
Doesn't matter, blame him.
Okay. We have a public hearing. Yeah, I have a long one. Mr. Crode?
Through the chair, public hearing A, PSLU 19-0004, is a special use request of Lockmore Homeowners Association to amend their plan, bylaws, and master deed to require minimum standards as defined by the association, properties located within Lockmore development. This public hearing was previously held on June 24th. There has been 2 postponements to a date certain, which is tonight. Since there was some pending litigation at the time, and since we've already held the public hearing, I ask that the chair consider recognizing the attorney for Darren Chase, who's the builder, and also give the Homeowners Association, their president and architect, an opportunity to bring the council up to date before you take any consideration tonight.
Okay. Are the attorneys in the...
Good evening. My name is Sherman Abdo, 12900 Hall Road, Suite 403, Sterling Heights, Michigan, 48313. Phone number is 586-413-7777. I've been informed by the president of the Homeowners Association that their attorney is not present today. If you would like me to speak unilaterally, I could do that. If this agenda is going to be adjourned, we can do that too.
Well, it should be fairly. The homeowners association, since your attorney is not here, do you want someone to speak on your behalf, or
Okay.
just so we can
through
have
the
chair,
chair,
sides?
yeah, we would just want to give both sides an
We
opportunity.
just want to hear
bring
both
up
sides.
state.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just wanted to let it reflect. Well, okay, I'll go after you.
Oh,
Do you
just-
have a preference on who goes first?
He can go first.
Okay.
He-
Wait a
Yes,
minute, what's going on?
Sorry.
okay.
Is this better? Okay, sorry.
Okay. All right.
My name is Sherman Abda. I'm representing Mr. Chase in this matter, and I've outlined to the council through letters I've given to you privately in your chambers and through matters made on the record of some concerns we have over the passing and recording of this First Amendment to the Master Deed of the bylaws of Lockmore Homeowners Association. The bylaws set out strict standards of which to pass an amendment. One of the basic terms is the homeowners association needs to host a meeting. At that meeting, there's a vote by the members of the homeowners association of whether or not to pass this amendment. They need 66 2/3 votes of all co-owners in order to pass an amendment. To our knowledge, there's never been an official meeting or an official vote between all the co-owners to pass this amendment. There was a impromptu door-to-door solicitation on July 10th and 11th to be able to get votes, but they fell short of their 2/3 standards even at that. They were able to get 20 votes. There are 34 total homes, which means they need the votes of 24 co-owners in order for any amendment to pass. So at a basic standing there, they don't have standing to seek approval in front of City Council for this amendment. Additionally, this is a material change to the Master Deed and bylaws. They want to deem themselves successor developer of Lockmore condominium project, and they also want to have architectural control, of which, from reading the bylaws, it states that only the developer at its own discretion can relinquish control of the architectural control. The developer at this time has been long gone. He's no longer part of this picture, and never at any time transferred this power to the homeowners association. Now, under the Michigan Condominium Act, a successor developer can be any person who's owned more than either 75% of all the properties in a condominium project or 10 or more homes. Mr. Chase has owned 13 homes, 13 units at one time. So him himself can even have a stake of him being considered successor developer in this matter. There's still pending litigation in this matter. And due to the fact that they have failed to abide by their own bylaws and master deed, we're asking that you deny any request that they amend their master deed at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bell?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Constance Bell, 24637 Pembroke Drive. As you all know, I've been here before you many times. We are the successor developer. There was a lawsuit in 2015 where it was deemed that Darren Chase is not the successor developer. He's only a landowner. At any time, he can actually sell the property to anyone else, as he did for the first 3 homes. He did not build them. He sold them to another person, and they built them. Also, we did meet the requirements. We did have a meeting. We do have 2/3. There were 3 people that were ineligible, and 1 person moved, and a new homeowner, Mr. Hall, purchased the home. And I have the documentation, which I did give to the attorney. The reason why we did the affidavits is because we were asked to. We already had a list, but we went to the people who had already signed the list with a notary so that all the signatures were achieved that day. Or I shouldn't say achieved. We received all the signatures that day. And as you know, we have done what you asked us to do as regarding to amend the site plan. We have the architectural approval. The board already had authorization because there was no material change in our master deed, it says that the homes that are built need to be harmonious and they need to be uniform. And that's what we're asking for the council to approve the site plan. We are interested in having homes that will continue to increase in value, not diminish in value. As I said before, the 2 houses that are being built now have 1 bathroom and 3 rooms on the main level. Our homes have way more footage and way more rooms. We have extras like fireplaces and other things. All we're asking for is that the houses that are built, that they be like ours. We have homes that are of a higher value. We have homes that are luxury homes. We do not want affordable homes. I'm trying to think of anything else. Did you want to read? This is the architect builder.
My name is Connie Reno, 6533 East Jefferson, Detroit, Michigan, Suite 2.
Excuse me, Madam Chairman, have them talk into the mic because you can't hear it from here.
I said Connie Reno,
Yes.
6533 East Jefferson, Detroit, Michigan, Suite 212. As a result of being accomplished by this effort, I think and I am sure that more than anything, over and above the requirements and conditions set forth in this amended master deed, the HOA definitively wishes to ensure that any new proposed development and corresponding construction will ensure that the remaining buildable condo lots, primarily on the north, east, and south portions of the overall development, will maintain a cohesive character, architectural style, and the present vernacular detail as is prevalent within the existing development site. If not approved by this body, the HOA is concerned that the resultant proposed development will create a definitive disconnect from the character and the existing site as it is stood up until 2016, and ensure that any new existing builder follow to the letter and the conditions as identified in this amended master deed and an approved, updated special land use.
And again, excuse me, I want to reiterate that I did provide, as was requested, to the city attorney, all the signatures, and they were notarized. Again, there are 3 homeowners that were ineligible to vote. So therefore, we were required to do 20, which is 2/3. We have a new homeowner, Mr. Hall, who is located, I have it at 24693. He is the new homeowner. The prior homeowner, Charlene Fluker, no longer owns that house. And I also provided the city attorney with the documentation of the title work where it transferred hands. So we did meet the requirements.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair.
I know it's not our turn yet, but I'd like to know, the gentleman, he gave his name and address. How do you fit into this?
I am a consultant.
You're a consultant?
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
okay, well, that wasn't clear when you gave your name and address. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Crowe?
Yeah, through the chair, I just would like to read the recommended resolution that came forward from the Planning Commission with all the stipulations before
You
you
can be seated.
deliberate any further, just to refresh your memory, because this has been over a month.
Yes.
Okay. The Planning Commission recommended favorable approval of the special land use, subject to these conditions. They include presentation packet for PSLU 19-004 dated June 17, 2009, and identifies sheet C, 5A, 5B, 6 through 8, 13, and 14 is to be included as part of this approval. The minimum square footage total of the remaining 8 home sites to be built in consideration and respect to the increased construction costs present-day typical residential building rates will meet or preferably exceed the minimum square footage of 2,100 square feet, which include a minimum of 4 different house styles. See sheets 5B, 6, and 7, with alternative elevation variations and grouping configurations. Additionally, home sites number 3 and 4, the maximum height shall be 1 1/2 stories as identified per original approved special use and site plan in the original Lockmore master deed. Number 3, the facade is to include brick, columns, porches, and garage face to the gable ridge equivalent and corresponding in pattern, color, and design to the original homes within the existing development, including first floor brick facade around perimeter of all new homes. All windows must be equivalent in style, orientation, and quality to existing homes built in 2005 and there up until 2015. See sheets 10 through 12, for example. All vinyl siding must conform to specifications 0.44-inch thickness, double 4 Dutch lap, Certainteed or Vitec or equivalent. Number 5, all fascia construction and racks to be rough sawn pine painted, or as an option, the installation of .019 aluminum coil stock shall be allowed if consistent in color with existing units. If utilized, the coil stock color must match the color palette of the original existing homes. Condition 6, roof and dormer shingles must be architectural, 30-year dimensional asphalt, 3 brands, GAF, IKO, TAMCO, or equivalent. Number 7, aluminum gutter installation, 4-inch K-style with aluminum rectangular downspouts. Item 8, orientation of building siding should meet the site parameters as indicated on the original site plan, dated and approved by the City of Southfield, September 19, 2003. Clear view from front of home to street must be maintained. Condition number 9, equivalent building vernacular, scale, architectural contact, compatible color including brick, painted surfaces, and trim features to be relevant and consistent to the existing homes must be maintained. Condition number 10, observance where most applicable of building placement in regards to front building setback uniformity within existing built homes. Item number 11, related to the proposed build-out of the remaining home sites within the Lockmore cluster development, the Lockmore Homeowners Association will not approve a continuation and completed build-out of the following home types: the Pembroke home style, the Williams, or any corresponding name if applicable; the Huntley building style 1, the Wexford, or any corresponding name if applicable. This home name was reused as an alternative to the previously built original home model constructed in 2005 and thereafter named the Wexford. And C, the Huntley building style number 2, the Irvington, or any corresponding name if applicable.
Thank you. Before we go to the council, can I refer to our legal
Yes.
and ask your city attorney for,
You haven't opened up the, I mean, you can, but you haven't opened up the public hearing yet.
oh, we didn't have one.
Pardon?
You don't have to.
We don't have one.
Okay.
Is that okay? Okay.
Thank
Madam
you.
Attorney.
Thank you. If this honorable body is inclined to pass upon the special use request of Lockmore Home Owners Association to amend their plan, bylaws, and master deed as recommended by the Planning Commission, the legal department would recommend that that be subject to court order from Judge Daniel Patrick O'Brien, that the homeowner, that the HOA had the authority to amend the plan, the bylaws, and the master deed. So it would be subject to proof by court order.
Council, do we have any comments or?
I have just one, Madam Chair. On the second page of the recommendation of the city planner, B, I think this should be corrected. The second lane here, item under B is Todd, it should be to the.
I read the corrected statement into the
Pardon?
record. I read the corrected statement into the
Oh,
record,
okay, I just want to
as
make
well
sure
as the
that
date on the
wherever
third
this
line.
goes, that everything is
Yes.
set in place.
Thank you. Mr. Frazier?
Yeah, also on the first page, under 4, you did say 0.44 inch. Should that be .044? The thickness of the...
I believe so.
Pardon me, under 4?
I believe so. I believe it should be .044 inches.
Okay. And
I know we're being very particular that we do it exactly right. On number 5, the fascia construction, it says rough sawn pine. Should it also include knot-free? Or, I mean, you want the highest quality of construction, or was that not ever discussed?
Through the chair, this was the recommended language by the consultant who was a builder and architect.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying that we didn't get it right.
Okay.
But I believe we've got it per verbatim as presented to us.
Okay. And that's fine.
Anything else?
No.
Mr. Brightwell?
Madam Attorney, what you read and what you stated, is that the conditional approval contingent upon the court conditional approval?
That would, correct, that would be a conditional approval subject to court order from Judge Daniel O'Brien that the homeowners association had the authority to make those amendments and those changes.
Okay. I just want to make sure. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we grant the Lockmore Homeowners Association conditional approval of their special use request, contingent on court order that proves they have lawful authority to amend their master deed.
Support.
Okay, I will need this to be a roll call vote. We have a motion on the floor that's been brought forth by Councilwoman Morris and supported by Mr. Brightwell. May I have a roll call?
Brightwell,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Fracassi,
Yes.
Frazier,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Mandelbaum.
Yes.
Motion, resolution adopted.
Motion passes. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so what's next?
Through the chair, our next, I might have to reset the screen, but I'll read it into the record. Our item B under public hearing is PSLU 19-0003, a special use request of Integrity Building Group on behalf of the owner, Marthoma Church, to allow for the expansion of the existing parking lots into single-family residential property related to the construction of an addition to the church. Properties located at 24480 and 24518 Losser Road. And I'd just like to reset the screen. As stated, the petitioner's Integrity Building Group. The site is approximately 6.44 acres. It's located on the east side of Losser between West 9 Mile Road and West 10 Mile Road. And again, it's to allow construction of an addition under site plan, but the expansion of the existing parking lot into a residentially zoned parcel. The site is composed of 2 parcels. These are existing conditions. Again, it's to expand the parking lot into the residentially zoned district in the parking lot only, which requires a special land use. And this is the site plan, which indicates the expansion of the building and the special land use consideration of expanding the parking lot south of the existing parcel. This is just for your information, the details of the sanctuary addition to the east of the current rectory. And, but the main focus here is the special land use, granting the applicant the ability to expand the special parking into the residential district. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to the petitioner's representative to state any additional comments that you may have.
Good evening, sir. My name is Thompson David. I live in 31787 Clarita Street, Livonia, Michigan. I belong to the Detroit Marthoma Church.
I'm John Bigger, the architect for Integrity Building Group, 350 Madison Street in Detroit.
So we moved to Southfield in 2000. We were in Detroit. We were as parishioners in Detroit. We moved to Southfield in 2000. So now we are requesting to expand our sanctuary because we have grown our population a little bit. So we were requesting we brought the adjacent property next to our church. It is a single-family home. So we are trying to use that land, a little bit of the land, to expand the parking lot and also to expand the sanctuary a little bit so that we can accommodate the population that we have.
And if I could just add, the single-family home he's indicated was the former rectory for the prior church. That's why it exists there on the site. So they're just looking at expanding the parking to accommodate the sanctuary addition, and that requires special land use.
This is a public hearing, so would you please be seated, and we'll open up the public hearing.
Right. Okay. All right. So anyone that would like to speak to the issue of special request for Integrity Building Group on behalf of the Marthoma Church, please come forward, give your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Pamela Gerald, P.O. Box 155, Southfield, Michigan 48037-0155. My telephone number is 248-346-0439. You know, I hear council people say often and talk about the community benefit. I'm not opposed to this particular project. And in fact, if the house was a former rectory, I guess it makes sense. But I haven't heard anyone seated up there on the dais ask about the community benefit. And also, too, I want to make sure and ask that not one of the council people up there that's up for re-election solicited to this petitioner and got a donation for their campaign. I want you to consider making some kind of ethics rule to say that if you are running for re-election, you cannot solicit someone coming before council for money for your campaign if you have to vote on their deal. So the question is, what is the community benefit? I'm not opposed to this project, and I want to make sure that no one up there has gotten money from this petitioner for their re-election campaign. Thank you. And I have 1 minute and 29 seconds left.
All right, thank you. The public hearing is still open. If there's anyone else that would like to speak to this particular issue, please come to the lectern, and you will have 3 minutes. Please give your name and address for the record.
My name is Brian Walker. I'm at 24565 Lois Lane, Southfield, 48075. My property is immediately to the east of the initial structure. I have no issues with the expansion at all. Just wanted to state we've been working a little bit offline from the previous review of this proposal, that when the original structure was built and originally occupied back in 2000, it resulted in a change in the drainage of my property, such that now I have a significant amount of water collecting in my yard during the springtime, because it used to drain to the west, and that is no longer happening. So I've been working with the engineering team for over the years, trying to get to a resolution. We don't have anything officially on the books yet, but from talking to Lee Schultz, as part of this, she was hopeful that we would be able to have some requirements for correcting that drainage issue as part of this expansion project. And again, from initial discussions with the Marthoma team, they seem to be open to looking for that solution. So we have started dialogue, but I did want to make it a part of the record. They're looking for that solution as well. All right? Thank you.
Thank you.
The public hearing is still open. If there's anyone else that would like to speak to this particular issue, the special use of Integrity Building Group, please come forward. If there are no others, we'll call the public hearing. We'll commence it closed. Council?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Fracassi.
On the requirements, on the addition, I have absolutely no problem with the addition being approved, but what I am concerned about is where it states number 5 on page 2 of the PSLU 19-003, it states, number 5, the proposed use of such character vehicular traffic generated will not have an adverse effect or be detrimental to the surrounding land use or adjacent thoroughfares. I recall when they expanded the parking, and we approved the expansion, that the neighbors came out to the rear, in the back, stating that they had no objection, but they were concerned about water setting and those kinds of things, and across the street from them and in the property. And I think there's a letter in here, I think it's from the person who just spoke.
Yeah, we have that.
If I can get to it. Mr. Walker, is that, yeah, Mr. Walker. And he's having a problem, and I would like to see that addressed, so that, you know, there was a lot of input. Lee Schultz was involved in that, engineer, did try to help by asking the petitioner to let the city construct a drain under the masonry wall, and I don't think that was done. Like I said, I have no objection about the expansion, but I know there was a big concern when this first came before us to add parking, and the people are still suffering from some of the water. And there's a recommendation of our engineer, and I think that should be a detrimental, showing a detriment for this expansion unless we deal with it.
Yeah, through the chair, Mr. Fracassi, item 2 under recommended resolution states the following. Item 2, the petitioner and the church are to work with the property owner of 24565 Lois Lane to the east to try and resolve the water ponding issue on his property that resulted from the construction of the church. So that has already been made a condition of approval.
Okay.
Yeah, but is it going to happen? It's just your...
Well, we're making it a condition of approval, so before they get their certificate of occupancy, we will make sure that this item is satisfied.
Well, I guess, I
Instead
see
of just
that.
a general
I understand
statement.
what you're saying. It is be conditional, but I'm just stating that when we sent our engineer to them, that they could construct a drain, they showed how it could be effectively helped out to the neighbors. We didn't hear anything to the contrary, where the petitioner said, we will address that. And I guess it may be part of the recommendation, but I'd like to have the people who are making the petition state that we understand what the people were requesting and that they go forth and address it.
So if through the chair, I would like to encourage the representative from Integrity Building Group to come up and address that issue.
Good evening again. I'm sure there is a solution that can be accomplished to get the water off the neighbor's property, off to Mr. Walker's property. I think part of the issue, it was well before my time, what was done back when the original parking lot was put in there, but I think it became part of an issue was the city required a solid wall, which was a foundation instead of a fence. And that interrupted the natural flow of the water from Mr. Walker's property towards the Rouge Drain. And so instead of progressing across towards the drain. It's now backing up onto Mr. Walker's property. So I'm sure there's a solution in there. I don't know what it is yet because we haven't engaged our civil engineer on what that solution is. But I'm sure there is some type of solution, either a swale on Mr. Walker's property and through the adjacent properties to get back over towards the Rouge for the natural drainage, or some other type of underground system to collect the water that collects on that used to go naturally before this concrete wall barrier was put in place.
There's a sentence that goes on in this letter that says that, if I may take it out of this letter, but the church was wary of this solution, stating concerns of overloading their catch basin, and ultimately decided not to cooperate with the city. And that's what concerns me, is that if the city says there's a problem, to alleviate the problem for your neighbors, that our engineer be at least told what is going to be done by the petitioner to resolve that problem. So when you say, I don't know what the solution is, I think the solution could be done
right here.
by asking our engineers to look at the situation that's presently occurring and help out the neighbors.
Yeah, that would be something our engineer for the expansion of the parking lot would have to work with, contact the city engineers. And obviously, it's now a condition of the petition that we have in front of you. Like I say, I wasn't privy to the previous discussions over the last 18 years when this occurred. And
Well, I'd like to make it conditional that the church address that situation so that the neighbors are not flooded, okay, or they get the water addressed.
yes, I
One way
believe
or
that's-
the other. Either cooperate with the city, or the city understand the situation and find out there's not a problem, but according to the letter, there's a problem.
Yes, it sounds like there is a problem.
Okay.
That needs to
And I have no objection to your petition, but I'd like to have your neighbors taken care of.
And gentlemen, I'm sorry, we didn't get your name and addresses for the record, please, if you could give that before we have any further questions.
John Bigger, Integrity Building Group, 350 Madison Street, 4th floor, Detroit, Michigan, 48226.
I'm Thompson David. I'm in 31787 Clarita Street, Livonia, Michigan. Phone number 248-476-1967.
All right, thank you. Mr. Frazier?
Yeah. When the consultant explained where the water's coming from, it sounds like before the church was built, the natural flow of the water would have gone over onto the church property, what became the church property, and ended up in the Rouge River at some point in time. When the wall was built, it stopped the water from coming off the person's property and ponding. You know, our ordinance says, and it's, again, this is one of those knotty problems that we find ourselves in from time to time, that you can't drain water off your property onto somebody else's property.
Greater than the agricultural rate.
Pardon me?
Greater than the agricultural
Yeah.
rate.
I would think that a pond is not, is,
I don't disagree. Again, this happened in 2000.
yes.
And we are specifically addressing it in this approval.
Yes.
So this will be a condition of approval prior to them getting a certificate of occupancy.
Well, when I was reading this, it sounds as if the church has a drain on their side of the wall, but they're concerned that the amount of water that accumulates would overtax their drain and cause them a problem. I don't know how to resolve that issue, but this year has been extremely wet.
Right.
So I don't know if we could use this year as an example of what goes on a regular basis. It would be helpful for us, I think all 7 of us, to make a decision if we knew that this was year after year problem, or if it happened in the last couple of years, or
This is what I can say to you.
yes.
There's going to be additional impervious surface as required by the building addition. and there's going to be the impervious surface for the parking lot. Therefore, some underground storage or some off-site storage will be calculated based on that. And we can work with the city engineer to make sure that whatever is being added to deal with that is large enough to handle a reasonable amount of water flow from the adjacent property. I think that's all. Again, I can't speak to what happened in 2000 and what their decision is, but since this is made a condition and they have to provide calculations for the new surface, we can work with the city engineer to calculate dealing with some of the issues that were brought up by Mr. Walker.
Right. Well, the bottom line is we've interrupted nature, and now we're trying to fix it. But the water is coming from the aggrieved
right
toward the church. So
right.
it's
being blocked.
Yes.
Apparently from the foundation.
Yeah,
of the
apparently.
wall.
I don't know what kind of a catch basin or whatever the church has that if you put a hole under the fence and put a pipe in it, that it would drain water into that catch basin. I don't know if it would, if it just goes down and an agricultural rate absorbs back into the property, or if you have a tank down there that catches the water from your parking lot, from the impervious surfaces. So.
I would assume it's under the standards from 20 years ago, so it's probably going as quickly as it was designed back 20 years ago before we started having the concerns about how quickly we discharge water into the Rouge. So my guess is it's getting into the Rouge River as quickly as possible into the storm drainage system of Southfield. Obviously, with today's standards, the city of Southfield has a lot more stringent requirements which are necessary to protect the Rouge, and those will have to all be taken into account. And something will have to be made to account for this water that's been blocked from naturally draining to the Rouge now in with this new design.
Right, and I think the Planning Commission has put down one of the issues that requires both parties to work hard at it.
Yep.
in order to get a certificate of occupancy.
Nope.
So, okay.
Councilwoman Morse?
Yes, I just wanted to echo Councilman Frakazi's comments. The city engineer did give a recommendation for a solution, that the city construct a drain under the masonry wall to the church's catch basin. And so I would just like to see us add that to the resolution. You have a number 2 to try and resolve, but if we could just add that to the resolution and make sure that's done, then I don't have a problem with moving this forward.
I agree with that. Yep. Mr. Mandelbaum?
Well, based on just reading that also, it does say that even though that was the suggestion, that the church looked at it, but they were wary of the solution, stating concerns of overloading their own catch basin. So I think it's a catch-22. There's a possible solution. They don't know if it's going to work.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's why I think the wording is the way it is of, try to come up with a solution. I don't know if we need to put a specific solution in here, just because if that doesn't work, then they're going to be back here to get an amended resolution. I'm fine with the wording. That was one of my questions as well, but I'm fine with the wording that says try to come up with a solution. And I do believe that between our city engineer and the planning and building department, that they will work with the church to find a suitable solution.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments, council?
No.
We have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve PSLU 19-0003.
Support.
Been moved by Mr. Mandelbaum, supported by Mr. Brightwell, that we approve PSLU 19-003, special use request of Integrity Building Group.
Mr.
If I could
Chairman?
add a friendly amendment. Subject to our recommended resolution dated July 22nd, 2019, items 1 through 9.
I didn't hear you, Terry.
I wanted, if you wouldn't mind, making it specific to the recommended resolution with all these conditions in it.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
We accept that amendment.
I thought that was already a part of it.
Or you accept it?
I accept it.
Figure we did, yeah. Was there anything else, Mr. Perkowski?
No, I just want to make sure that Mr. Walker's letter was put in there in underlines, because we did have an engineer there and tried to help. And I just didn't like that they decided not to cooperate with the city. That bothers me. So I would like to make sure that our engineer looks at it and helps them out in finding an answer.
Absolutely. All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll now move on to public hearing, item C.
Advised you.
Give me a second here.
Thank you very much for coming.
Through the chair, our last public hearing is PSLU 19-0005, a special use request of Michael Iserman, 21348 Telegraph LLC, to use an existing building for general or professional office use, not related to industrial manufacturing operation, property located at 21348 Telegraph Road. So the property provided the location. The site is approximately 0.68 acres. It's located on the east side of Telegraph Road, north of West 8 Mile. It's really adjacent to Ross Towing's yard. And the existing building would be used for general professional office use, not related to industrial manufacturing. These are the site dimensions, existing conditions. The site has been vacant for quite some time, and we've had a number of undesirable requests for this site. So the fact that they're going to use it for office fits more in line with our office technology research corridor for Telegraph Road. The current zoning is in industrial, and the future land use is technology corridor sub-area. They are going to make some substantial improvements to the frontage site, landscaping, parking lot, and cleaning up the building facade. There's the detail of some of the landscape screening that's being provided, and then upgrades to the existing building. Now, you're here specifically to deal with the special land use approval, and the site issues will be done administratively. But with that, I'd like to invite Mr. Iserman and his builder up to make a few comments before the public hearing is opened up.
Good evening. My name is Michael Eisman. I'm at 26021 Marlowe Place in Oak Park, Michigan. My partner, Michael Pitters, at
25800 Hagen, Chesterfield, Michigan, 313-739-5591.
And we'd like to request the approval for general office use for the property. The property has been vacant and is currently run down in an eyesore on Telegraph. We'd like to move our corporate offices there, and we're anticipating cleaning up the exterior of the building and making it a positive impact from the street from Telegraph, and to actually occupy the building again after it's been vacant for several years.
Okay. Thank you very much. You guys can have a seat for a moment. We're going to open up the public hearing. Public hearing is open. If there's anyone present that would like to speak to the matter of PSLU 19-005, please come forward to the lectern. Give your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Pamela Jarrow, P.O. Box 155, Southfield, Michigan, 48037-0155. My telephone number is 248-346-0439. It doesn't really say specifically on the public hearing notice on the agenda, PSLU 19-0005, what specifically type of professional or general office. I heard him say headquarters, but it doesn't say what type of business. It says non-industrial or manufacturing. So is this in an area where they do any brownfields or tax abatements or anything, or is it just industrial district? I just want a little bit more clarification.
Thank you. Again, the public hearing is still open. Anyone else that would like to speak to this particular matter, please come to the lectern and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public hearing is closed.
Through the chair, Mr.
Crowe.
Eisenman. Just for the record, could you state again your business and why you're using it for office purposes?
Our company is called Metro Detroit Living, and we specialize in rehabilitation and repositioning of apartment communities around Metro Detroit, and a large number of our properties are on the Telegraph corridor. We were looking for an office space on Telegraph in between the areas that our properties are so that our managers and office staff could get to and from. So it's for the most part property management and rehabilitation.
Okay. All right, thank you. Council?
Mr. Chairman, I so move the item C, PSLU 19-005.
Support.
Been moved by Mr. Fakasi, supported by Ms. Taylor, that we approve the PSLU 19-005 special use request of Mr. Michael Eisman. Are there any other questions? Mr. Crowe?
Yeah, just again, for the record, I just want to make sure that it's subject to the recommended resolution dated July 22nd, 2019, items 1 through 8.
Mr. Chairman, I add that to my motion.
And supported.
Support. All right, very good. All right, are there any other questions, additions, or deletions? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Crowe. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Ken, could you put that down there? Thank you.
Thank you.
I have nothing further tonight.
All set? All right, thank you, Mr. Crowe. Just let that go up so we can hear when we're going to communications.
Hey, Terry, I'm sorry. Take this big book.
All right, we're in the communications portion of our meeting now. Our first speaker is going to be Ms. Pamela Gerald, who will then be followed next by Mr. Gerard Mullen. So, Ms. Gerald.
Thank God I got a little tush there. I fell just a moment ago in the front. I fell just a moment ago. I just wanted to talk to the residents out there. For over 30 years, a lot of you have relied on my assistance, which I was always happy and grateful that you trusted me enough to seek me out and get some resolution to your problems. You know, we keep hearing our government, our United States of America. And I just want to know, do you guys know and really believe that the citizens are at the top of the organizational chart? It just seems like this council and administration makes up rules as you go. You know, before your tenure, the previous council president, all you heard was people complaining about a potato chip bag. People are talking about you drinking water, you coughing, and everything was a distraction. But you allowed, the previous council person, allowed one man to come up here and call the mayor dastardly names, and not once did anybody on this council talk about the policy that you guys have written down here. You cut me off when I was speaking truth, and the person that I was speaking truth about, it does not address that particular issue on your little disclosure. It just seems like you guys are just missing the boat. That seat right there that Jay Reed is sitting in, that seat has been crickety for about 2 years. Can you move so they can see how it cricks? That's what this council, along with facilities and administration, should be concerned about. Now, you guys got these reserve signs up here. Who are those seats reserved for? Who are they reserved for? People speaking during the public hearing? That would be me and my husband. Who are the seats reserved for? This is the People's Auditorium. This is the People's City Hall. You guys need to be concerned about developing Northland and the parking lot across the street, as opposed to trying to stop me and my husband from sitting in seats. And I want to thank you for apologizing to my husband. We didn't quite like the comment that you made, but you apologized. He needs to sit here so he can get to this podium so we don't have to be joked about like that. So stop putting these reserved signs on seats. There are no reserved seats in the People's Auditorium.
Your time is up. Just for the record, the reserved seats are set there for, particularly for issues as it relates to things like public hearings and such. There are people that are coming to the podium, and there are other residents and individuals walking back and forth behind them, and it makes people feel uncomfortable. And so we're just trying to create safe space for everybody, make them feel comfortable as they come to the lectern to speak, and we want that for everybody. So it's not against, it has nothing to do with any individual. It's just about running an orderly meeting. Our next speaker is Mr. Gerard Mullen, who will be followed by Ms. Sonia Simpson Gardner.
Good evening. My name is Gerard Mullen, Southfield Citizens Oversight Committee. Post Office Box 155, Southfield, Michigan 48037. Mr. Chairman, tonight I would like to talk about a parliamentary procedure as it applies to these council meetings. If you recall, Mr. Chairman, at the May 30th, 2019 council meeting, I mentioned that this council violated both the Open Meetings Act and Robert's Rules by not recording in the minutes the roll call vote for the council meeting of February 15th, 2018, in regards to Bar 7. You folks were listening. On May 30th, and thus on June 17th, 2019, council corrected and approved the February 15th, 2018 minutes, thus fixing this oversight of not recording the roll call vote of February 15th, 2018. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Sonia Simpson Gardner, who will be followed by Ms. Stacy Jackson. I don't see that Ms. Gardner is here, so we'll move on to Ms. Stacy Jackson, who will then be followed by Keith Harris.
Good evening.
Good evening.
21685 Rougewood Drive, Southfield, Michigan, 48033. By now, I guess there is no guessing on why I'm here. For the past, almost going on a year, every Monday I come here and I stand at this lectern and I see that sign, Southfield All-America City. While I know that's a community award, that's a national event on community-based things, I wonder if all of you are aware of what's happening in all of America. There is an increase of systemic racism and discrimination happening all across this country, and I have come to this podium time and time again to express how some of your selective enforcement is dangerously close to that discrimination. It's been nearly a year that I came to this podium about the septic tank issue. As an association president of a neighborhood, our goal is to communicate with the neighbors in the community without storming City Hall, to come work with our elected and appointed officials. I have concerns that when reaching out to neighborhood association presidents, that my correspondence was interrupted for a meeting by the mayor, clearly saying that what I was saying was inaccurate. I came to this podium, the city administrator said that the letter was a fluke, that it was an accident, that someone's name was put on it and address changed. On July 8th, Dr. Calhoun, and I address her by that because I am also an academic, she indicated that she met with various municipalities and read their letters about septic tanks. She indicated that Southfield's letter was the harshest letter pertaining to septic tanks. Well, I challenged that. It's what I said when I entered the letter to the neighborhood association presidents, that our mayor said was inaccurate, but I was right. That our city administrator said a letter was changed or the dates, but I was right. The letter is threatening, and it forces residents to connect to the septic system. In fact, there was a neighbor in our community, right before our association annual meeting, came home with a letter requesting his president, 46th District Court, the charge, failure to connect to the city septic system, sewer system. Who would receive that if it is true that residents have the right to repair and replace? Might I add, in order to get that posting to his door, the code enforcement person had to drive over 450 feet to tape it to his door. By all accounts, this resident and all the others should not continue to go through this. Why is this happening, and when are you going to do something about it? Thank you.
Our next request for recognition is Mr. Keith Harris, who will be followed by Ms. Pearlie Burgos.
How you doing? Keith Harris, All Race and Life Matter, P.O. Box 2679, 48037. Mr. Bukowski and Myron Frazier, y'all asked some good questions in that room about the schools, very good questions. And we should be given the names of every 501c3 that's involved with the contracting of these schools, the contractors, the name of any nonprofit. But beyond that, we need to get back to talk about the systemic racism of this city. You know, we had this detective come in and talk about task forces. Well, how many blacks are on that task force? How many black officers will get the opportunity to be on a task force that would uplift them, the same way our new police chief is? Our new police chief is one of the best in the country. We got the best, and I'm glad you guys made that decision. We got a long way to go, and we're not gonna make it if we don't do better about the racism of this city. We're just not gonna do better. We got a church called Hope. We got another church called Empowerment. Well, guess what? Empowerment comes with home ownership, an education, and a job. If you put a person in a predicament to lose their home, they lose their empowerment. Have you ever thought about that? We need to see more blacks on the police force. We can no longer hesitate on this anymore. And we still need you two men, to grill these 501c3s, because no, it is going to destroy the community. Overbuilding in the community it's not going to bring in the housing values any higher. Condos do not make housing values higher. They actually lower. And if you pay attention, the Illich Foundation just pulled out of a big contract downtown because the development is slowing down for condos. So the only thing that's going to happen when you overbuild a community, you're going to have a bunch of Section 8 housing, which is going to hurt the community in 10 years. I'm hoping you guys really pay attention to what's going on in this city when we talk about turning schools into condos. And the property would actually be worth more if you just tore the schools down and sold them outright and get the brownfield money, the development money, to tear them down yourself. The schools are actually worth a lot more money undeveloped than developed. Thank you.
Our next individual for recognition is Pearlie Burgos. I don't believe it's here. Our next request for recognition is Sylvia Robertson. Our next request for recognition is Mr. Harold Hill, to be followed by Mr. Carl Williams.
Hello, Council. Harold Hill, Southfield resident. Today I was going to finish my story from last week about the septic systems, but I got a call from a resident who I promised that I would tell her story. She just wanted to have the park that's close to them have maintenance. I didn't know about this park. There's a park called Lasser Woods Park. It's located next to like 27575 on the west side of Lasser, between Winchester and 11 Mile. And they said it's a nice park. They would love to use it more often, but they can't because the chairs, they have one bench and one chair, and it's broken down. And the parking lot, it almost looks like a retention pond. I did go by and see it because it has a lot of ditches and holes, and you can grow mosquitoes, especially since it's been raining so much. So I did want to mention that part. They have a big group that want to go to that park, and hey, it's an easy fix. A couple yards of dirt or rocks to fill in the parking lot, excuse me, and to make sure they cut the grass, and a couple of benches, and they'll be happy. So I just wanted to say that part, and that's simple. I'll come and talk to you more about the septic system. I didn't get a chance to finish the outcome of what happened about a month ago with this autistic gentleman. I've said the septic system problem is more of a social problem too, and it not only affects the people that owns homes, but it affects people that actually rents homes, because they were put out of their home because the landlord had not fixed the septic system. So that was a concern. But the story came out pretty well, and I've got to commend the officers of the Southfield Police Department who, because the young man acted out and broke a window, they came to get him, and I happened to be there. The good thing is, and I've got to commend Officer K from the K-9 unit, he diffused the issue. They worked out a plan where the young man can pay for the window, and everything is just fine. So, and the first payments were made last 2 weekends. So everything's good there. Just wanted to finish that off, but I commend the officers of the Southfield Police Department. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Our next request for recognition is Carl Williams. Our next request for recognition is Connie Reno. Our next request for recognition is Lee Neal. Our next request for recognition is Constance Bell. Next request for recognition is Vicki Neal. And next request for recognition is Milton Hall, Jr. All right. And all of those individuals were from Lockmore, so I think they were all satisfied with the decision that's even already made, so understandable. Okay, so communications is, yes. Take it off. So we'll move on now to the council portion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Fracassi.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would just like to mention that Eileen Feldman passed away. For those who have been here a while, she was even on the Civil Defense Board that we had years ago. She passed away just the other day. And I just want us to acknowledge her leaving because, you know, I'll read a little thing here. She enjoyed bowling and meeting with friends. Eileen also participated as a member of the Jewish War Veterans, has also served as captain with the City of Southfield Emergency Management and Auxiliary Police. Her and her husband were very active. Her husband is still alive, and he was doing a lot of photography work in the City of Southfield. Eileen would go out in the snow, winds, storms, and then back in those days, even watch over the lines that were falling until they took that away from him because it was too dangerous.
What was her name again?
Eileen Feldman.
Okay.
I have another item, Mr. Chairman, is the mayor, I hope I don't take away from the mayor, but we became the top 25 in the country, which that our homes have evaluated upwards and have almost doubled in price as far as value. And that is really talking great positive things about the city. There are two other items, Mr. Chairman, that I would like to talk, and it's actually my viewpoint. As you know, I am in the business of construction and development consulting, and I meet with a lot of people who have met with properties that were hard to develop, and I just feel that I give it my 2 cents to what's happening at Northland, that things come at me. I hope it comes more to the council, but I feel since I've been off that board, I have the minutes, but that really doesn't say what's going on in the future. But the last plan I seen was of the planners, and I wish Terry was here, was marijuana labs were at the south end of Northland. And, you know, in the circle I go in, to including general development, is that, you know, he said, and a lot of people said that this should have been, you know, a bermed triangle with trees and a unbelievably attractive entranceway into a tech park, and become part of the growth that's coming to Detroit in capturing some of the individuals who can't find the locations they want in Detroit, but find them in Southfield. I think that we're really selling Northland short. I guess the architectural entranceway that was shown to me, and I guess the council the other day, I never seen it until it appeared before us. Didn't have any input on it. And I think it does not meet the criteria that I look at for making that area come up in standards that we are looking at today. SIMCOG talks about how everyone's moving northwest, construction, offices, tech centers, and we're missing the boat if we don't deal with that in saving the southern part of our city. I think that we have to have a meeting and look at it really thoroughly on what Northland could mean, even changing the name and upgrading the name could be something that we could look at. I think we need like a planning session where we could talk about these properties that are being developed instead of taking what's available and, you know, like, for example, the presentation General Development made, they requested 40 acres and we gave them 20. Of course, they went to another city now and put those two tech centers in a competitive city. And it kind of hurts when we don't look at what we could be and what we are going towards. I do not agree with marijuana being labs or anything else down at Northland area. Secondly, talking about the Ever Center, or wherever they got that name, but you know, we've seen the plan that was brought to us with the apartments and a pool and some commercial, and I think we're really missing the boat, because ever since I-696 was built, that was really going to be Town Center 2. The plans they have for it were really upbeat. And today I see we're getting additional parking lots built. Radical, instead of a parking deck, they're using a prime land for parking. And then, of course, the apartments that we've seen the other day, I really didn't think that was really suitable for across the street from City Hall. What should happen over there is what was looked at years ago, is like a international market or international center. We have events on the front lawn. People could go there, get things to eat, have a little talk, have a little chairs outside. We have three things that really would make that go. And of course, the council did ask that a grant be issued to make a park across the street. But you know, a three-story condos or apartments with retail on the main floor, and a park that puts all this package together in the middle would hit all three nodes. That would be apartments, commercial, and of course a park where people could go over there and sit, get together, and meet. And you know, I'm not even opposed to the big coffee shops today where people, you know, fight to get in them anymore. They're all over the place. And it's because people like to go to them and relax, have meetings, talk things out. And I think that we're really missing a boat by not really doing something fantastic across the street on the, what I call Ever Center. And that makes my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Vicasi. Mr. Brightwell?
I would like to also mention Eileen Feldman. I knew her and her husband as the chair of the Veterans Commission for approximately 10 years. When Eileen and Bernie would always be at our events, Bernie would be there taking pictures, and Bernie was a very good picture taker, and he shared the pictures with us. And it was just obviously, I would see her when she was helping out our emergency management people also. They were good people, and as a chair of the Veterans Commission, I worked very closely with the Jewish war veterans, and I would meet with them, and they were very supportive of the Southfield Veterans Commission. And matter of fact, we worked with the Library of Congress with an item called the Veterans History Project. The first 10 interviewees that filed Veteran History Project were members of the Jewish war veterans. And just so happened I made a presentation to them at one of their meetings, and everybody in the room signed up for that particular project. And so they were instrumental in getting the Southfield Veterans Commission recognized by the U.S. House of Representatives. And Mr. Levin, when he was our, Sander Levin, when he was our congressperson, he actually flew out to here when we were conducting some of our meetings. Not our meetings, but the interviews over at the library. But I will get off into my other normal things that I talk about, which is veteran issues. And I would like to just say that although we have approximately 6,000 veterans in the city of Southfield, I'm not sure how many are listening on this program, but the items I talk about they are adult-related items. And if you have a friend, a neighbor, or a child, family member, let them know a couple of these items I will talk about, and I will try to, as I used to say, pass this information on. And this is a reminder. I brought it up last week at our last session. that if you were a combat disabled veteran and you received combat service pay, you potentially are entitled to a tax refund of up to $3,200. The Department of Defense sent out letters last July, and they just sent out something else, that time is running out. And if you know of anyone who might have was disabled and received money from the U.S. government because they were disabled, please tell them to talk to their tax advisor and/or call the IRS and tell them that potentially they are entitled to a $3,200 tax refund. And the phone number, I gave this number last time, but it's 833-558-5245, and that's extension 378. That's the IRS number specifically for veterans who might potentially be in for a refund. The next item I want to talk about, the last item, and as I indicated, veterans deal with some real life issues. Sometimes they are, keeping us safe can be taxing on the soldiers themselves. And the VA is very active and they turn around very quickly, treatment. They just came out with a nasal spray available to drug-resistant depression. Now, the reason I give this out here is because most veterans, if they might have a primary care person, primary care doctor, and they can, or if you know of someone who is a veteran and they have these issues, you can let them know that the VA came out with, after the FDA approved this in March, March of 2019, the VA quickly turned around and approved the nasal spray, which is available for treatment-resistant depression. And obviously, for them to get this particular service, should be able to get in touch with the Dingle Hospital and/or Ann Arbor Hospital and any other VA treatment center around that they are near. But just pass on the word that if you know of someone that might be in need of this, tell them that the VA just approved a nasal spray for treatment-resistant depression. And it's finally, in 2018, the VA owned 1.7 million mental health issues for veterans. So there's nothing wrong with, no stigma with being in need of medical treatment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Mr. Brightwell. Mr. Mandelbaum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With the hot weather that we've had this past weekend, and this week it's also expected to be in the high 80s, I wanted to make sure everyone takes advantage of our sports arena pool. They have open swim hours every day, even on the weekends, and it's a good chance to go in the water and cool off. Also, I wanted to thank all of our first responders. As many people know on the news, there was an unfortunate situation yesterday in Southfield, and our first responders handled it very professionally. There were no issues except for the issue they were trying to resolve, but they were there for a very long time, way into the early morning hours, and so thank you to all the first responders, that includes both police and fire, for their assistance with that situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
I'd like to expand upon what Mr. Fracassi mentioned, a little more detail. Last week we were notified that Southfield is one of the top 25 U.S. suburbs where home values are growing the fastest. As all of us who've lived here for years know, during the financial meltdown and mortgage crisis, our property values tanked in Southfield. And so we are making an incredible recovery. This is obviously very good news for our city. And again, this was published in Business Insider. We saw a approximately a 78% increase in property values over the last 5 years. And that's been one of the goals of the city council and my own, is to recover from the mortgage crisis and the damage it really did to our city by outside forces beyond our control. And this time I'll get the month right. I do want to remind everybody and invite you out, everybody out to the Kimmy Horn Jazz Festival. It's coming up on August 10th and 11th. That's Friday.
Not April.
9th and 10th. I know it screwed up. It was the 10th and 11th last year. But that's why you're going to remember this. It's the same weekend, August 9th and 10th, and Friday night from 6 to 10:30, and Saturday afternoon from roughly 4 to 10:30 p.m. Flyers are out, lots of information. It's going to be another great event on the front lawn of the Southfield Civic Center. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Administrator?
Yes, Mr. President, as discussed earlier in our study session, the administration is requesting a special meeting. We had discussed Monday at 5:30 p.m. to discuss purchase agreements associated with Northland. If council could establish that special meeting.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. That we have a special meeting next Monday, the 29th at 5:30.
Support.
Been moved by Mr. Frazier, supported by Ms. Taylor, that we have call a special meeting of the City Council on next Monday, July 29th at 5:30 p.m. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you. Also, Mr. President, we, on Monday, July 29th at 10 a.m., we will be swearing in Southfield's new police chief, Alvin Barron, in this room, council chambers, Monday, July 29th at 10 a.m.
Okay.
And also, my deputy, John McArena, will be making a statement on behalf of our IT department, prepared by Renee Hinojosa, to discuss an item that came up at the last council meeting.
Okay. Go right ahead.
This memo is to clarify the Cisco clock chip issue and data security concerns raised at the July 15th council meeting.
John, can you pick the mic up a little bit? You're a little taller than everybody.
Start over?
Now I can hear you.
No, okay. In June, Cisco notified the Technology Services Department of an issue related to a component manufactured by a supplier for Cisco that affected some Cisco products, specifically the city's integrated service routers. The clock signal component, also known as clock chip, degrades over time, with most failing after the unit has been in service for 18 months. Our routers have been in production for over 24 months with this possible faulty component. Once the component fails, the system will stop functioning, will not boot, and is not recoverable. The Technology Service Department has identified the units affected by this issue and is working with Cisco, our Cisco partner, to replace the defective equipment. This issue does not compromise our security protocols in place on our data network, nor does the issue affect any of our city's security hardware or data. A failure of the router would cause the voice and data services to stop working for the affected building. The city's data was not compromised nor breached at any time. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the clarity on that topic. Okay. Anything else, Mr. Zorn?
No, sir. Thank you very much.
That's it. All right. Thank you. Madam Attorney?
Nothing from the Attorney's Office. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Madam Clerk? All right. Is our treasurer here this evening? Or planner, assessor, or engineers? Anybody? All right. Then we'll just move on to ordinances. We have one ordinance to enact.
Mr. President?
Mr. Frazier.
I move that we enact ordinance number 1705, the
Support.
Animal Control Ordinance.
Been moved by Mr. Frazier, supported by Mr. Brightwell, that we enact ordinance numbers 1705, the amendment to the Animal Control Ordinance. Are there any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Is there anything else for the good of the order? Seeing none, meeting adjourned.